On this Good Shepherd Sunday, it is very clear why the gospel reading and the psalm were selected. Christ is our shepherd. He protects us and saves us, his sheep, even to the point of death. What is a little more hairy and frankly less common and less addressed are this Sunday's other two readings. For what purpose is Peter's metaphor for masonry or the assertion on love in 1 John mentioned? The two clearly Good Shepherd readings give us a very fulfilling message. The warm, fuzzy surge as we hear about how much God and his Son love us and protect us and will save our sorry, sinning souls. But the fact of the matter is that these stories are so common that today's other two readings wrongly end up taking the back seat. The Psalm and the Gospel tell us why God is so good, but Acts and 1 John tell us what we need to do about it. Two themes play out in the backseat readings this morning: the kindness and benevolence of God and his Son, and the immensity of Christ's sacrifice. In the second chapter of 1 John, the 6th verse claims that whoever says he abides in him ought to walk in the same way in which he walked. So the question becomes, how do we imitate Christ? Acts is thought to have been written by Luke to build confidence in the young church as it faced heavy persecution by the Romans. He recounted the courageous acts of the first Christians and the trials they had to undergo to launch the church. In this reading, Peter gives you and me a mortal example of courage and sacrifice. As leaders of the very first church in Jerusalem, Peter and John had been arrested by the Sadducees in the very first verses of this chapter for their particularly successful proclamation of the word. Questioned by an onslaught of priests and elders, Peter does not flinch, but is in fact filled with the Holy Spirit and is steadfast in his faith. Not only this, but in the following verse, verse 13, Peter's interrogators were astonished by this courage and had to take a moment and recover themselves in order to return to his persecution. Looking again to 1 John, the command is clear. Christ loves you so that you are in turn able to love one another. Christ sacrificed for you so that you might also be courageous in the face of adversity and stand up for your faith with those around you. But this is all too obvious. A both common and critical underlying theme penetrates this Sunday's lesson. Inaction. It is absolutely incorrect to bask in the glory of the more common front seat verses this morning without also involving yourself in the commands of the back seat ones, Acts and 1 John. You cannot have the glory without the sacrifice. If we were to walk in the same way as Christ, we have to first realize that Christ didn't simply come to church on most Sundays and get a little pep talk and some motivation for the week ahead. Now, it's absurd to presume that we, mortal and faulty as we are, can truly and fully imitate Christ. But we ought to at least do a better job. We, because I'm surely included, should first aim to remain cognizant of our Christianly expectations. Now, there's no expectation for all of us to adopt a mission in the Congo and wildly proclaim the gospel to the masses, but rather, I think back to the choruses of one of my favorite songs from Synod Units. And they'll know we're Christian by our love. By our love. Yes, they'll know we're Christian by our love.